I've been playing MMORPGs since Ultima Online, you know, when dinosaurs roamed the earth and dial-up internet was best in slot. What if I told you Elder Scrolls Online is by far my favorite PvE out of any MMO I've played? Welcome back, gang. It's Deltia from Deltiasgaming.com, and today I'm going to share with you why I think ESO's PvE is amazing and how it can be even better. Let's get started. After recently completing both new veteran dungeons on the public test server and one of them on hard mode, I was reflecting on just how far Elder Scrolls Online PvE has come. You remember the good old days of ESO when all the trials you had were Ethereal Archive and Hellraw Citadel and you had veteran ranks. When barely anyone could beat the trials and you were using flawless Dawnbreaker on your front ultimate and everyone played a magic sword. Everyone still plays a magic sword in PvE, but the point is this: PvE has come very far. After taking a 2.5-year hiatus returning to the game, I noticed one thing was abundantly clear. There were many more dungeons, trials, and arenas, but the one thing plaguing my previous experience was radically different, and that's the gear grind. The single biggest hang-up I had with Elder Scrolls Online PvE was the sheer time commitment it took to get new and relevant gear. It seemed every 3 months ESO would one-up their previous gear sets, requiring you to stay on the never-ending hamster wheel of MMO gear grinding. While I love new content, other MMOs felt like you would need to regrind gear every 6 months to a year with a new level cap increase. I couldn't take spending 8 hours a day in Imperial City Prison to get a Divine's Belt of Scathing Mage back in 2016, just so I could then do Maw of Lorcage on my Magic Nightblade. In essence, I was spending 99% of my in-game time doing things I didn't enjoy, so I could spend the 1% I did enjoy to the max. This was the biggest, obvious positive change that I noticed immediately, and I want to break down this and some others. When MMOs launch, they typically lack a robust endgame PvE experience. This was certainly true for ESO back in 2014. The grind was real, and the only endgame was a couple of dungeons and trials, and oh boy, there were veteran ranks and they were a pain. Just reaching max level endgame was an accomplishment. Next came getting one of 2 relevant gear sets that mostly had to be obtained in PvE trials. Yes, for most of my time in ESO, the best PvP gear was obtained in PvE. Most gamers never complain about new content, but ESO's relentless content cadence is mind-blowing. Previously, you could expect every 3 months most of your gear to be irrelevant. Monster helms, 5-piece sets, arena weapons, crafting sets, you name it. Flash forward to today's game, and while some of this is still true, there are many options and ways to obtain relevant gear. There were also 2 major additions that were added: gear trading and the transmute system. Gear trading was a huge step in the right direction, allowing for needless gear sets to be traded with friends. Then came transmuting and jewelry crafting. Now you could speed up that gear grind drastically just by obtaining items and farming a currency to retrade gear. And then the mother of all updates added the sticker book, the holy grail of gear grinding solutions. A system to allow a collection of items by binding or deconstructing and recreating with the transmute currency. Now nearly every activity you did in ESO felt rewarding. When someone asks you to do a random dungeon that otherwise wouldn't interest you, guess what? You'll need some random item from this dungeon to add to your sticker book, so a no becomes a sure. That random dungeon finder you were avoiding now becomes a YOLO yes. These combinations of additions made the 99% problem I had with the game pretty much a non-issue, and that was the gear grind. I could play the type of content in ESO the majority of the time, while the occasional dungeon, trial, or arena grind was necessary. Remember how I mentioned ESO's charging for never-ending content cadence? If you love endgame and enjoy always having something to do outside of grinding, this is a game for you. Nearly every 3 months, you either get some type of new PvE, whether it be a trial, a dungeon, a feature, or a quality life improvement. Almost without fail, something is added to the game. ESO has many forms of endgame PvE, from housing, questing, and so on. What I mainly focus on is arenas, dungeons, and trials. ESO has 2 solo arenas, Maelstrom Arena and Vatashram Hollows, while there are 2 4-player arenas, Dragonstar and Black Rose Prison, and an obscene 44 dungeons and counting designed for 4 players, and 10 trials designed for 12 players. That is truly a heap of content, comparing to Star Wars Old Republic, which is getting close to a 10-year anniversary. Shockingly enough, ESO has managed to keep at least 1 to 2 gear sets relevant in almost every single piece of content, including overland and questing. Moreover, every patch, an old useless set could get a rework, so even if you don't see value in a set piece now, it surely could become meta the next patch. Thus, the sticker book and the collection process is a treasure hunt, giving players like me an endless incentive to do nearly everything over and over and over. Incentive plus variety plus quality equals a home run PvE game. With a horde of content, it can be daunting to find what to do and an area to focus on, which is a critique I will get to later. But one that has changed for the better is the ease and accessibility to play the normal versions of PvE. It used to be very difficult just to get a normal trials group together, and hours later and many soul gems consumed, my experience would end up with frustration and disappointment. Even normal Dragonstar Arena was a nightmare for the average player, and yes, I'm including myself in this. ESO has really scaled back the difficulty of normal mode trials, dungeons, and arenas, allowing for most players to get a taste of the content. You can now complete most of these normal versions of the PvE easily, especially with the addition to companions always having a battle buddy at your side. This is a huge boon for the game because you can see the story, experience the content, but also collect some of the gear. No, the gear isn't nearly as effective as the veteran version, but if you're not capable, not willing, or don't have the time and sweat equity, no worries, you can get a slice of the action. I remember when very few groups could complete White Gold Tower, flexing a Molag Kina helm make you feel boss level in Craghorn. Or what about Mauve Lorkosh skin? Total flex. Well, those achievements, titles, and skins still exist for the ultra hard content. But the change to make a normal, lesser version of the same dungeon, arena, and trial allowed for the average player to enjoy PvE and was a massive step in the right direction. Speaking of flexing, the sheer amount of achievements is daunting. ESO started adding many more mementos, titles, skins, dyes, etc. back in 2016 and has never really stopped. Rocking the Godslayer title is something to covet. Incentives, utility, and enjoyment is what ESO's endgame PvE is full of. Last positive point here is the direction of the dungeon's design. Take Fungal Grotto 1 for instance. Total joke that can be completed in less than 5 minutes on normal. Fast forward to the new dungeons, Red Petal Bastion and Dread Cellar, which I will not spoil for you in this video. Each has puzzles, secret bosses, tons of achievement, and 3 separate hard modes. It takes hours to master, and beating all 3 hard modes is a legit challenge for the sweatiest of PvEers, including myself. Every 3 months, I look forward to farming them on the PTS and figuring out what needs to be done. Not to mention that the developers have really expanded the type of mechanics in each dungeon previously in ESO. Now you'll find sometimes you'll need to grapple, use a synergy, bar swap, and so on. This is a far cry from 99% of every PvE encounter being a tank and spank, skipping every mechanic with mind-blowing DPS. Simply put, ESO's PvE is good because there's something for literally everyone. You like questing? Great. You'll have a gazillion hours worth of content. You're a hardcore sweaty PvEer trying to push score? Great. There's a lot for you to do. Or if you're like me, I love 4-player content with the occasional lone wolf arena. But everything can't be good, right? Remember the sheer amount of content? Well, that's the big downside, and that is, where do you start? Where do you begin? Other games have a clear sense of progression that usually starts with level cap. Once you reach maximum level, you start to advance your gear. Gear is boosted by stats, primarily with a moderate emphasis placed on set bonuses. Level cap typically increases throughout the life cycle of the game, thus a need to increase level and regrind gear. ESO's endgame is a bit deceptive. First you hit level 50, okay, now what? Well, just because you're level 50 doesn't mean your character is optimized. Half the time, once I reach max level, I spend another 10, 20, or even 30 hours getting skill points, grinding up skill lines, and maxing out my morphs. I'm looking at you Undaunted, Fighters, and Sigit Guild skill lines. Okay, I'm max level, I got my skills morph, I'm ready to go. This is endgame, right? Nope. Now you have to grind champion points, at least to CP level 160. Okay, I'm at CP level 160, I'm good to go. Now I surely must be at endgame. Nope. You'll need to continue to increase your CP up to 15 or 1600 to fully reach maximum potential. So let's say you're one of the few that do that. Now what? Well, that's the tricky part. There is no clear path to progression. There is no gear score. There is no sense of which trial or dungeon to start with. Take, for instance, the random dungeon finder. It's a total crapshoot on what you get. Maybe you'll get Fungal Grotto 1 Veteran, and it takes you 10 minutes with the pug group. Maybe you get Storm Garden, and you cannot complete the first boss 4 hours in. ESO seems to favor immersion over a helpful queue finder and tier rewards based on challenges. My solution? Have some type of brackets for dungeons. Tier 1 could be your base game, non-DLC, the Banished Cells, the Spindle Clutches, the Fungal Grottos, etc. X Tier 2 could be your early DLC dungeons like Imperial City Prison and White Gold Tower. Tier 3 could be your super challenging 4-player content, Lair of Marsalok and Stone Garden, and so forth. Each tier should come with increased incentives and rewards. Say 2 Undaunted keys for Tier 1 hard mode completion, maybe 4 keys for Tier 2 hard mode, maybe 6 keys for Tier 3 hard mode with increased experience, unique items, and rewards. With 44 dungeons and more to come, it's absolutely impossible task for the average, new, or returning player to know what the heck to do in all these dungeons. I've been playing for years and years and have a dream team assembled around me, and we still struggle. Imagine the average pug. Speaking of the queue finder, why aren't trials in there? Yes, most folks reluctantly sit in Craglorn flexing their achievements and soliciting for a trials group, but the game should have some system built in. So again, stagger the tiers so it's a logical progression with AA Hellraw Tier 1 all the way up to Rockgrove in Tier 3. The game, in my opinion, should have some built-in mechanic, some path for folks to travel on in order to progress in PvE and not favor immersion so much. I'm not a big fan of the champion point system. I much prefer static level increases yearly with chapters, though I might be in the minority on this opinion. In my opinion, the champion point system hinders new players wanting to try ESO out because they're so far behind. People come in my stream every day and ask, is it possible to catch up? So I know it's a concern with the broader community. ESO could go one of few ways with champion points. They could go with the classic tree specialization, which is somewhat boring. Most games rely on. I'm playing a 11, 5, 20 Templar, and so on. They could increase levels yearly, though that would separate a large part of the community with those who bought the chapter and those who didn't. Or they could make the power ceiling of the champion point system much lower, but the utility much higher. Meaning, let's say it takes roughly 1,600 champion points to reach maximum effectiveness. Why not make it 400? Now, instead of having a bunch of useless laudables that no one uses, expand on the green tree's utility passive perks. Helpful crafting passives, speed boost out of combat, questing perks, have increased incentives for gold gains, alliance points gains, random treasures that spawn, faster lockpicks, etc. Spread those passives perks out through the blue, red, and green tree, adding a ton of utility throughout the champion point system, not just the green tree. Now, new and returning players are not at a massive disadvantage, and old heads like me have a reason to collect more champion points. Because at my current CP level, 1700 plus, why do I need more? So I can save 10 seconds swapping out slottables? Yes, ESO said, we've removed the cap. No, you didn't. You really just have it at 1600 now, with very little incentive to continue to progress. I mean, no disrespect in ESO's progression system, but it's missing the mark for me and a lot of players. As a business, I would think Elder Scrolls Online would want to attract newer players to jump in and feel like they can reach endgame in an obtainable time. After all, have you seen how well Final Fantasy's MMO is doing? People will flock to this game with a robust endgame full of life, and ESO surely has that. But the definition of endgame, its clear path of progression, and the ease to which a new player can enter surely needs a tune-up. While I've given some feedback there, I had to dig deep to come up with some improvements for ESO. That's because the PvE in ESO is so damn good. I consider myself a medium sweaty PvPer who loves PvE. Let me leave you with the story. Dragonstar Arena is older than my 5-year-old son, and I still try to play it once a week because I love it, because I love collecting the gear, and it's just fun. Not only is this content still relevant and fun, but ESO has something for everyone. Whether you're a hardcore solo player, you got VMA Vatishram scores to push. Casual people that like trials can pug together and complete a normal. Or sweat-lowered PvEers who love a super challenge can push trial score and DPS to the maximum. You could spend your entire lifetime collecting achievements, questing, and farting around with your companions. There's just a little tweaking at endgame to give the average player a clear sense of direction and ease to enter. But then again, I'm just one player with a strong opinion. What did I miss? What do you agree with or disagree with? Please leave me a comment. I'm interested to hear your feedback. Shout out to my Patreons for sponsoring this video, and you wish to continue to support my YouTube channel, link in the description below. Thanks for watching.